Corey Lewandowski and Dave Bossie, two really important people for the election of Donald Trump. Of course, the first campaign manager for Trump, Corey, the deputy campaign manager for Trump, Dave Bossie. They're old friends of mine, and I have an embarrassing story to tell this morning about their book party. Okay, so this book, Let Trump Be Trump, is huge. It's going to be a huge book. It's jam-packed with details about life on the campaign trail, and it's fun. It's a fun read, but it's just stuff obviously only Corey and Dave would know. So I stopped in at the Trump Hotel last night on the way into the studio to go to their book party. Because look, I have the first blurb on the back cover. I even beat Hannity and Levin, and I'm the first. Gingrich is on the bottom, and I'm on the top. I love that. So I was excited to stop by. I invited a bunch of guys from the staff here. And I walk in, there's nothing going on at Trump Hotel. And I go to the maitre d'. I said, no, where's the, I don't know about a book party. And I roll my eyes at Raymond. I said, nobody knows where this thing is. We walk around, go to the restaurant, no one there. We go upstairs, no one there. And then this guy follows us and he says, oh, I think the book party you're talking about is tomorrow night. Oh, it's so embarrassing. They join us now. Corey and Dave, how are you guys?
Oh, thank you. We're better now that we heard that story.
Oh my gosh, guys, it was well, maybe I'm the one with mental impairment. All right, let's start with you, Dave, because you guys still talk to the president regularly. You've known him for years. Corey's known him, obviously through this difficult campaign season, ultimately ended up being victorious. But the attacks now, which had started some time ago, including from Bob Corker, on Donald Trump's mental capacity, have now reached a fever pitch. Dave, go ahead.
It's just an outrage, Laura. When a guy it sounded just like he had a dry mouth, like he needed to have a sip of something to drink. It's not this guy is sharp as a tack. He is smart. He understands what's going on. And I got to tell you, as somebody who supports him and the Trump conservative populist agenda, it is upsetting to me that the left, whether they're Bob Corker or Jeff Flake on the left or the Democrat Party, that they have to attack him at every turn, and they can't even allow what sounds like a guy with dry mouth to not be an attack on his mental status. It's just outrageous that we've gotten to this level in American politics.
Corey, the personal attacks join the identity politics, join the Mueller investigation. But obviously, I think he has some bridge work. Like, I know people have bridge work all the time done, and something slips in the bridge work in your mouth, and it's embarrassing, but as if none of us have anything like that embarrassing ever happen to us. But these are the people, Corey, who are supposed to be so sensitive to aging and so sensitive and tolerant of everyone, but the first moment they see something like that, they go right to mental health.
Well, it's amazing because I know Steve Schmidt, and I remember the day that he came into Trump Tower begging for a job on the campaign. And now it's amazing where things are very different, right? So he came and interviewed 2 different times to come to the campaign, and Trump said, yeah, I'm not interested, thank you very much, because you really did a bang-up job with John McCain's operation, so I think I'll take a pass. But, this is what's amazing to me, Laura, is a hypocrisy of the left and of those who wanted jobs with Trump or praise him in private, and we've seen it so many times now, and then in public they go out and they chastise him because they think it's right for them. We talk about this in the book all the time, right? There are so many things that people don't know. The behind-the-scenes parts of Let Trump Be Trump is what it's really like on the campaign, but there are people like Steve, and I've always respected Steve, but guys like that who would come to the Trump Tower and ask for a job, and now they go out and criticize him when they didn't get one. It's amazing to me.
No, I'm putting aside the niceties, even though it's the Advent season, because when someone can go on TV and so unfairly characterize a speech and a historic moment for the Middle East, and when President Trump is doing what no other president had the guts to do, even though they said they would, that's what the focus should be, not whether he was able to say United States without bridge work slipping. Ooh, as if that matters. Dave, go ahead.
Last night, Corey and I had a chance to talk to Ambassador Ron Dermer, and what he was talking about was that this is a generational. This is a decision by this president. By the way, the 13th president that has promised to do this, but the first one to actually do it. He said this is going to be remembered hundreds of years from now, and how important this courageous decision by this president, how important it is, and we have to have it demeaned by some lowlife like Steve Schmidt. I'm sorry, it's appalling to me.
Let's talk about life on the campaign trail with the pace that you both kept at different points in the campaign. First during the primary season, Corey, and then in the campaign, the general campaign against Hillary. I remember well during the winter of 2016 that there was, of course, still a horse race. It was still Ted Cruz believed he had a path to the nomination. And
one for 49, John was still in the race.
What's that?
John Kasich, 1 for 49, John was still
exactly.
in the race.
John Kasich thought, they could come up with some electoral magic. I mean, the whole thing was just ridiculous. But talk about the president's reaction to the establishment's refusal to give his, at that point, 38% of the electorate any real credit for what they were deciding was the best for their own party. Talk about that, would you?
Well, what we talk about in the book was the RNC's role was very different than what the campaign was trying to do, and Donald Trump, almost from the day he came down that beautiful golden escalator, rocketed to first place. And we stayed in first place from that day all the way through the primaries. All the way through, he became the de facto nominee. But you know this, the establishment never gave him the credit that he deserved. 16 people in the race, Donald Trump is getting 38 or 40%, and they were saying, well, yeah, but he's not getting a plurality. He's not getting a majority. Well, there's 16 people in the race, and they continued to say that as the race progressed, other people who dropped out would 100% of their support would go to somebody else. And they would always make these excuses. Jeb Bush is a little rusty because he hadn't run for office in 8 years. Well, Donald Trump hadn't run for office in 70 years, so I'm sure there's a little patina on him too, except he was a monster. He dominated. And what we said in the book was he took over every issue, from immigration to trade to deficits to taxes. He did that through the sheer will of his campaign and his messaging that he had been on for 30 years, and the establishment hated him for it.
We're talking to Corey Lewandowski and Dave Bossy, whose book, Let Trump Be Trump, The Inside Story of the Rise to the Presidency, it is, I said this on my blurb, but it is a wild ride. You got to grip the edge of your seat because you actually get exhausted for them through the book with this is a demanding man. Like I'm a demanding boss. I always say, look, I'm really demanding because I want to be the best. And I think you should hold the bar high for people. He is a demanding boss, and you document this throughout the book of how he expects people to perform. And if you look tired, Corey, I remember one time you were exhausted. I think it was at the end of a long day. I can't remember where this was in the book, but you were exhausted. And he's like, if you can't handle it, then, just leave or something like that, which seems kind of harsh. But
well, I literally had walking pneumonia. I had been putting in 18 to 20 hours a day for approximately 15 months at that point, and I closed my eyes on a 15-minute airline flight from one section of Wisconsin to the other section. He turned back to me and said, hey, Corey, if you can't handle it, we'll get somebody else. And I said, sir, I just haven't slept in almost 2 years. I'm a little tired.
No.
And but that's not him, because his grueling ability to keep a schedule was unparalleled. And what we talk about in the book is he demanded perfection because he deserved it. And Dave and I failed it, and the campaign failed him many, many times to deliver that perfection. From bad microphones to not getting things right, we want to be the best, and he wasn't shy about telling us then we weren't the best. And look, was it tough? Sure, but the book details that the next day, an hour later, he's your best friend, he's praising you, and he's bringing you back and telling you how great you are. That's the type of boss he is. He wants the best because he deserves it.
The book, Let Trump Be Trump, it's on all of our social media. It's phenomenal. Dave, before we let you go, Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of the president, and Brad Parscale, am I saying that right? I always get his last name right. Parscales,
yes.
Excuse me, who I adored. They both worked on that digital turn out the vote effort, and that was critical in the election, was it not, ultimately? Although it's been criticized for some reason in the aftermath. But they were kind of laughed at during the process, but that ended up being essential.
It was a major part of our victory. What Brad Parscales and Jared Kushner put together, and I said this in just a couple of weeks after the election in November of last year at the Harvard Symposium on the elections. I said that they ran when the Harvard folks were building up the Hillary social media department. I said then, and we say it in the book in detail, was that they ran the best digital campaign in American political history, and it was second to none. What they did in delivering messages via Facebook and Google and Twitter was nothing short of amazing, and it saved us money, and it targeted better. It got our messages to our people, whether it was in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the Rust Belt, delivering those important messages directly from the president, then the candidate, directly to people, as opposed to being filtered through the media who we knew we couldn't trust.
This book is phenomenal. I loved having you on last night. Everyone go out and buy it. Let Trump Be Trump, the inside story of the rise to his presidency, behind the scenes look at this historic campaign that few believed would ever be successful. And it was the people's victory for sure. Guys, love you. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
All right, Merry Christmas.